You like that? Is it suede?
Yes, it's Alcantara.
It's Alcantara, I think, yeah. What do you think of it?
I think it's awesome.
Yeah, I do too. I like the fact, yeah.
You better buy a suede brush when you buy this car, A, and B, if you have any juice on your hands and you touch the interior of my car, there's going to be a spanking.
Especially if it's like grape.
Grape juice would not, maybe it would look good with the orange, who knows?
Well, orange juice would be okay, I suspect. Ladies and gentlemen, meet the brand new Audi Q3, and this small crossover competes with cars like the Mercedes-Benz GLA, the BMW X1, and of course the Lexus NX. So the question is, what has Audi brought to the table in the small crossover class? Well, in this video, I'm going to show you. So let's start with the thing that of course Audi is known for. That's right, every Q3 comes with all-wheel drive all the time. It is a Quattro. Now, does that mean that it can go off-road? Well, let me show you that as well. The answer is, well, yes and no. It can go on a dirt road, but if you want to take it rock crawling, or let's say Hell's Revenge, this is probably not the vehicle. And that's because, while it does have relatively good ground clearance, Audi says 8.3 inches, it really isn't set up to be a hardcore off-roader. But it is set up to do some other interesting things, and let me show you that as well. The biggest difference in this generation of Q3 is that there are a lot fewer buttons, as you can tell. Instead, what you have are two very configurable and very bright and very sharp screens. There's a 10-inch screen in front of you, and then there's this big 12-inch screen. Now, it does have Google Earth. It, of course, does a lot of cool stuff, and one of the things that Audi does is it allows you to do things like right on the screen. Let me show you what I mean. So I'm in the navigation menu now, and instead of saying Starbucks, I can write Starbucks. Now that's a pretty cool party trick. S-T-A-R-B-A-T-S. But of course I ended up with Starbats. Yeah, which isn't a bad name for a competing coffee chain when I think about it. The outgoing model used to have 16.7 cubic feet of space behind the second row. Now this new model has a whopping 18.7. Now 2 feet may not seem like a lot, but in a small crossover it is actually quite significant. So you have plenty of room for things like, well, my camera bag, but Audi's been very thoughtful. So for instance, you do have a 40-20-40 folding seat back, and they've built this very, I think, thoughtful divider. Underneath, of course, is a space saver spare, but there are two positions. There's this upper position, or you can slide it into a lower position, giving you just a little bit more room. And let's face it, in a small car, a little bit of room means a lot. Unfortunately, it's not all brilliant. So for instance, if you want to fold the rear seats down, you know, there's only one way to do it, and that is the old-fashioned way. And that means you have to go open up the rear door and do it using this pull strap. And then of course you have to put down the headrest. Yeah, you have to. Okay, you have to move the front seat forward, then grab the strap, and then put down the seat. So it would be nice if there was a little lever in the back to do all that. Well, we've come to that portion of the review where we take the car for a ride in this beautiful horse country. Now, Andy behind the camera has taken some lovely B-roll of this car, so that's what you're looking at. But I suppose you're thinking about, what's it like to drive? Well, let's give it the beans and find out. You know, it's funny, it's got an 8-speed automatic transmission, but the engine note's a little, oh, I hate to say this, but a little bit like a CVT. Let's try it again. Yeah, there's a little bit of that whininess, but luckily it does shift. and it does kind of get out of its own way. It's a relatively sporty car. So you might be wondering what's under the hood. Surprise, surprise, surprise. It's of course a 2-liter turbo. Puts out 228 horsepower, which is 28 horsepower more, by the way, than the outgoing model. 258 pound-foot of torque, which is 51 pound-foot of torque more than the outgoing model. 0 to 60 now happens in 7 seconds instead of 8.2. And all that power is of course fed to all 4 wheels through the Quattro system through an 8-speed Tiptronic transmission, making for a nice tidy little package. Are we ever going to get the S version of this? Not the S line, the S version. Audi says probably not. Are we going to get the just newly introduced Sportback? Heck no. So for now, this is what we're going to get, and this is what Audi says you guys want. So while it isn't a dedicated off-roader, it does kind of, like I said, live between, let's say, a GLA and a GLC in terms of size, and that makes it very practical. So that means that I have a lot of headroom, a lot of leg room, especially with the seat all the way back. This is where I drive, but let's see if that translates to back seat room. Now keep in mind that unlike the previous generation, this one is just bigger all around. It's got more interior volume, it's longer, it's a little bit taller, so it should be a little bit more backseat friendly. And you know what? It is. Look, I've got actual headroom, I've got somewhat acceptable knee room, and keep in mind that I am 6'2", where, you know, I'm kind of on the upper end of big. So if I fit, chances are you'll fit. As always, Audi flew me out here to beautiful Nashville, Tennessee, where I've been driving this for the better part of the morning, and I had one of these in my rearview mirror, and I gotta tell you, if you love that big trapezoidal grille, in other words, if you love a big nose, you're gonna love this car, because look at it, it's all grille. And that is, of course, the way that the world is now going, at least the German world in terms of style. But interestingly, a lot of these are actually fake, just plastic. They look like there should be airflow through them, but there's not. Let's me and you talked. The old Q3 wasn't, well, it wasn't the most outstanding vehicle in its class. And this one, while there's nothing that's, you know, super special about it, it is kind of the Goldilocks now. It just does everything really well, and that's in itself a really good reason to consider it, because while it may not be the fastest, the best looking, the most sexy, the most off-roady, it is just kind of Goldilocks, and it does kind of tick all the different boxes. It's fun to drive, it's relatively fast, and it's relatively fun, and that's saying a lot. Now you might be wondering, how much does all this Audiness cost? Well, it starts at about $35,000 for the base car. That's not this S-Line. That car comes with 18-inch wheels, but you still get Quattro. And then, of course, it goes up from there. So do you want the cool colors? Do you want the fancy interior body color? That's going to all cost more money. And you do get pretty good fuel economy. Audi says that the EPA has rated this new Q3 at 19 city and 27 on the highway. Probably the coolest bit of tech in this Audi has to do with this, your phone. And it's right here. It's what Audi calls a phone box. Now, not only will the Audi charge your phone when you put it on the charger, but it does something even more cool, and that is it actually increases the phone signal through the car. So if you're in an area with low signal, the phone actually has more of a chance of connecting with your spouse so that you can find out when it's time to pick up the kids. So I've got my little cheat sheet, which includes all the new tech that you can now get in this Audi Q3. And some of it is actually new to the Q3, including the Audi Presense front with pedestrian detection. That's brand new. Lane departure warning. That's brand new. Rear cross traffic alert. That is brand new. Adaptive cruise control with stop and go. Top view camera system. Park assist. And the stuff that isn't new is Audi side assist and parking system plus. But the one that really seems intriguing here is the new top view camera system. So let's check that out. So let's see how easy it is or not to actually find where the cameras are hidden in this. So would it be Where would it be? Where would you hide the cameras? I know. How about if we just put it in reverse? There we go. Easy peasy. That's how you do it. Graphic. Cool. Camera. Let's switch cameras. No, that didn't help. That helps. So there you go. That kind of tells you, this line tells you how wide you're going to swing when you go reverse. Now it does it the other way, so I'm very close to hitting some shrubbery if I go full right lock. And this kind of 360-degree view is kind of the new thing in camera technology. Let's see what that does. Oh, looky there. Now you can see the side profile. You can see your front wheels. You can see what's behind the car. You can see what is in front of the car. And of course you can place the car right in the middle of the top view camera. So yeah, oh, lots of cameras. Tesla, are you jealous? Probably not. I think a Tesla has like 11 cameras, but Audi's getting there. So there you have it. One of the coolest new features that I think this Audi has, and that's been your cool new tech tip from TFL today. The Q3 comes with the standard Audi drive modes, and those include off-road, comfort, auto, dynamic, and individual. Some cars, the drive modes make a very big difference. In this car, I kind of feel like the difference between off-road and comfort is more in my ability to switch between them than in the car's ability to actually do much. Now in off-road, of course, it does change the way that the torque is distributed throughout the system, so it does appropriate power more or less to the wheel that has or doesn't have traction. Of course, in dynamic, it does things like keep the revs higher so that you're more in the car's and turbo's power band. But all this stuff is, I think, kind of secondary. I think at some point the manufacturers have decided that in order to compete with the other manufacturers, they have to have drive modes. But if it were me, I'm probably getting old, but I just keep it in comfort. So let's recap. You've got a vehicle that has relatively good shoulder room, headroom, leg room. It's kind of one of those Goldilocks cars that I think meets a lot of needs. The only need that we're not sure about is really how good it is off-road. As I showed you, there is an off-road mode, and it does have over 8 inches of ground clearance. But what does that mean when we take it up Rocky Top? Well, you're gonna have to come back when we get this car in Colorado and can actually do some real off-roading and find out if that Quattro system indeed is worthy of that off-road mode. As always, this is Roman reporting for the Fast Lane Car. Check out tflcar.com for more news, views, and of course, real world reviews. See you guys next time. Ciao. I do like the fact that it matches, you know, the outside of the car. Right?
It's amazing.
Of course, the problem with orange cars is at some point if you have to sell them.
Now, the problem with orange cars is
They match
after
your
about
shirt?
a year when you wake up and you look out the window into the driveway and you go, what was I thinking?
It might be a problem.
What was I thinking?